Thank you, Christopher. So I will continue on this episodical view of helping in a relational context to present an ongoing work that I'm doing with Vora Geller, who is unfortunately not here today with us. So more specifically, as newcomers enter the organization, they rely heavily on their peers for both emotional and instrumental assistance. And while recent research emphasized the role of newcomers' proactivity in building such relations, we still know very little about the likelihood that such relations will actually develop into long-lasting, stable relations, or the factors that may enhance or inhibit such development. So when we talk about relational commitment, we adopt Lawler's and colleagues' framework, and we talk about a behavioral construct that, for the helping purposes, we took two main elements of staying in the relationship, which we'll consider as continuing to seek help from the same dyadic partner at future times, and contributing to the relationship, which means providing help to that dyadic partner in future time. So how may such relational commitment develop? Well, according to Flynn's model of subjective evaluation, in order to understand the development of long-lasting exchange relations, we need to first understand episodes of exchange, and more specifically, how these are viewed by both partners. If these views align or these views come and collide, this might have a dire impact for the development of the relationship over time. Let's see how that might work. So, as Christopher mentioned, social exchange theory and norms of reciprocity, the same basic thing, exchange perceptions, right? If we think that exchange has occurred, we will develop reciprocity expectations if we're the provider, or if we received help, we will have feelings of indebtedness that we need to reciprocate and give back. If the exchange perceptions of the recipient and the provider align, then we can expect also reciprocity to meet, reciprocity expectations to meet, and resources can be gained or at least not lost because they were reciprocated. However, if exchange perceptions do not align, we can expect one of the parties either to expect reciprocity that the other doesn't perceive as needed to be given, or if we're talking about the recipient, then feelings of indebtedness that the provider doesn't see why would you reciprocate, why would you give me help? And then we can get into resources lost. So based on this model of Flynn, we developed three constructs, dyadic level constructs, to capture disagreement or discord. When we discuss agreement, we say, okay, both provider and recipient indicated, yes, help was provided. Provider said, yeah, I provided help, and recipient said, yes, I actually received help from that specific, we're talking dyadic, specific provider. With discord, however, we have a little bit more of a complex situation. It's not just yes, yes, it becomes now more complex. If the provider says, yes, I did provide help, but the recipient does not perceive such help as being received, we're talking about exploitation discord from the reason that provider now expects reciprocity, but the recipient doesn't feel like he should give anything back because he did not receive receiving help. However, if the provider does not think he provided help and recipient does feel he received help from provider, then he will be left with this indebtedness feeling that he wants to reciprocate back. So if the provider says yes and the recipient say no, we term it exploitation discord. If we switch around and the provider said no, I did not provide help, but the recipient, yes, I received help, we term this indebtedness discord. So how might disagreement or discord affect the development of relational commitment as we characterize as post-entry seeking or post-entry helping to the same dyadic partner? So comparing between agreement and discord, we expect agreement to yield higher levels of post-entry helping and help-seeking, both because agreement is hypothesized to lead to positive emotions, and also because agreement will likely to reduce threats of resource loss and increase psychological resource gains such as belongingness. When we talk about the discord conditions, we separate between the exploitation discord and the indebtedness discord, and we assume because in exploitation discord, both instrumental and psychological resource loss should be experienced by the provider, we expect exploitation discord to have more negative effects. So lower levels of post-entry helping and help-seeking are expected for dyads characterized under exploitation discord as compared to indebtedness discord, where we can also see some resource gain, not just resource loss under that condition, because helping was provided. The recipient feels he received the help, and such instrumental resources were gained. Our third hypothesis relate to the differentiation. As I said in the beginning, newcomers rely on their peers not just for instrumental help, but also for emotional help. So we wanted to kind of distinguish and see, does agreement and discord affect instrumental helping development, relations development, in the same way it affects emotional support, relational development. And we assumed we assumed the effects of dyadic agreement or discord to be stronger under emotional helping relations, because previous findings show that instrumental helping relations might not be so tightly related to the relational quality of the relational the dyads, the relationship between dyadic partners, and emotional assistance that require more resources from the provider. So how did we test our hypothesis? We used a sample of 221 newly hired customer agent services in a telecom company in Israel. We gave them a roster, it's a survey but roster based, so it's network data, which each participant replying specifically on specific other individuals, so not helping in general, not help seeking in general, but rather helping from a specific individual or help seeking from a specific individual. We took data in two time points. Time one was a month after when they entered the organization, the newcomer had 1 month orientation plan. So we took the time one was right after that month, before they entered the regular job. And the second time point was 3 months after, when they were already assigned into their teams. We used only dyads which we had information for in both time points that had some sort of exchange at both time points. We used the time one network data to calculate our agreement or discord variable. We took self and other reports of help given. So we asked people, was help given to you and did you give help? We looked only at help given, which will differ from what I'll show you in a moment in the next slide for our dependent variables. We asked the same question for instrumental helping and for emotional helping separately, and we created a categorical dyadic variable that each dyad belonged only to one category. If both partners said yes, help was given, they were under agreement. If recipient said no, help was not given, but provider indicated help was given, they were categorized as exploitation discord dyad. And if the provider said no, help was not given, but the recipient said yes, help was given, we categorized that dyad as indebtedness discord dyad. For our dependent variables, relational commitment, we also used network data. And here we asked two questions, not just about the help that was given, but also about the help that was thought. Again, both instrumental and emotional. And here we're talking about the individual level. So we're asking ego about the help he sought from Alter, the help he gave to Alter, the help Alter sought from them, and the help Alter gave them. Okay? So 8 continuous dependent variables overall, 4 for instrumental relations, 4 for emotional relations. We used the linear mix model, SAS limits. We controlled for 2 random effects. Ego is recipient and ego is provider. And in addition, we controlled for fixed effects such as age, gender, and post-entry assignment to the team. We did 2 contrast analysis for the first 2 hypotheses. So we compared between agreement and both discord conditions together for the first hypothesis, and in the second hypothesis we did the contrast between both discord conditions. For the third hypothesis, we did not have a statistical test, but we kind of overread the data, as you will see, the results as you will see shortly. So what have we found? Overall, very interestingly, only 38 to 49% of the dyads were in agreement. That means less than 50% of the dyads actually agreed with one another on something that should seem pretty trivial, whether help was given or not. They did not agree most of the time. So how did such agreement or discord affect our dependent variables? Well, let's look at our first hypothesis, comparing between agreement and discord, and under instrumental relations. So we found very little support to the effect of discord or an agreement on the development of instrumental helping relations. In fact, we found only the dependent variable of help given as perceived by the giver to be significantly different under the two conditions. However, if we look under emotional relations, we can see that our hypothesis was supported for all four dependent variables. I mean, that agreement and discord had a dire effect here on the development of the relationship. If we drill down deeper to look what happens between and compare between the two discord conditions, then we can see that under instrumental relations, no support. No dependent variable was really different for the indebtedness discord as compared to the exploitation discord. However, under emotional relations, we found most of our 3 out of the 4 dependent variables to be affected in the expected direction, meaning exploitation discord dyads lower post-entry helping and help-seeking than indebtedness discord dyads, except for help-seeking perceived by alter. So as you can see by this table, if you look at the under instrumental relations as compared to emotional relations, you can kind of see the support for our third hypothesis that emotional helping relations development is more affected by the agreement or the discord as compared to instrumental helping relations development. So, a short discussion. Our contribution is, first we drill down further into not just